Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the Time Travelers Edition. We're all in new locations, except for me. I'm in the same office. Farah, where are you at?
I'm in Brooklyn, in a bachelor pad, for lack of a better term, hanging out.
Next to the chop shop. Kawasaki?
Oh, I'm just at work. So
And is that an iMac behind you? That looks gorgeous.
It's just a monitor. It's big, though.
That's nice. Hooper, where are you at these days?
I'm in my office today. Someone told me it was a work day, so I showed up.
You gave us a tour right beforehand, showed us the decorations. You have nothing on the walls. One thing.
I've got my Fritz process map on the wall.
Nice. Framed process map? That's pretty nerdy.
Then our Fritz mapping to ITIL, COBIT, ISO, and ServiceNow, BMC, HP, CA.
Hold it still so we can get an HD shot of it and then pirate this on torrent.
It's no problem. I'll just give you a link to it. No problem.
Share it. You're supposed to be using the Hangout tools. We went over some Hangout tools.
Free data, right?
Yeah.
We should hack ourselves, though. I mean, that's appropriate.
Yeah, hacking business technology. Don't hire any of these people because they will share all of your IP. Not really. I know it's just marketing. It's all good. Speaking of nerdy stuff, I got a 2 terabyte NAS this week. Have you guys? What's your gadget of the week? Like, what are you hot into? What's the most recent awesome buy you've got?
I would have to say my wireless router. It's a Nighthawk, Netgear Nighthawk, and it does 600 megabits per second.
So it's an N.
Yeah.
But what kind of pipe do you have? Is anybody running fiber? Does anyone have access to fiber?
I'm on fiber.
What's fiber?
What you don't know, Farah, is that you glitched in the middle there. It says fiber.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I guess I've been looking at streaming stuff for video and TV a lot lately, just trying to do more without cable. So I'm using this app called Can I Stream It, which is cool because, I'm always thinking, okay, I tell the kids they have to check Netflix first before they go to Amazon to rent a movie to make sure it's not free, and it's like such a pain. It takes 15 minutes to figure out if you can watch it for free. So this app shows you, everywhere that you can stream it, the price, and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And then there's like a secret code, and you type it in, and it shows you the illegal places to get it.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, a lot of people just share Netflix username and password, even in different parts of the country. I don't know if there's any kind of limitation.
But there's a limit now.
There is.
They've improved their security. So
what is the limit?
I think it's like 5 IPs or unique IPs or something.
They'll limit by how many people are streaming, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I think for us, I think it's 2. Not that I'm sharing it. We just have. There are 4 of us, and the girls fight. We could easily watch like 100 things.
Yeah. You can also share an Amazon Prime membership, which is totally bizarre.
No, that makes sense.
I didn't even know that, actually.
Yeah, like if you have someone that you want to be able to have shipping free from Prime using your account, you can do that.
To another address?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not another address. You can ship anywhere with Amazon Prime, so it's another Amazon account that links into your Prime membership. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting. Well, if anyone wants that, I've got a Prime membership, so just shoot me an email. That's baron@hackbiztech.com, or you can email us at hosts@hackbiztech.com. Shout out to Roger Williams. So we'll get him on this next time, I'm sure. I'm positive. Another one that Chris tuned me onto recently called Open Paths. It's obviously it's what you think it is. It just tracks everywhere that you've been and like maps them between each other. It's fantastic. JSON export.
So I came across a website you might like, Baron. It's called VSN Mobile, and they've got some pretty incredible technologies. They're very diverse. So one of their technologies is a wearable technology called V-Alert, and it's like either a sensor you can put in a kid's helmet or a pendant or a wristwatch that ties to like a mobile app. So if a kid ever got in trouble or needed immediate assistance, quick hit, and they can automatically go to their phone and the parent's phone and connect them. It's kind of like an OnStar for your kid.
That's really cool. There's another one like that, right? Tile or something, I think it's called. That you can just drop the tile in anywhere and sync it to your phone.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. They also have a 360-degree camera, which I just think is awesome.
That is really cool.
It's full streaming 360 video. Sits on a tripod and gives you the full 360.
Though, actually, I've seen that in some of my client sites. They've got the 360 video cams for video conferencing, and they're kind of freaky.
The one that hooks up a link is really good. And then whoever's speaking, it just focuses on them, and will jump around.
What's that one called?
I don't know. I'll have to check it out.
Mobile link?
Yeah. The one I sent you.
Cool to put one like on your head and just become your own like Google car.
Yeah, well, that's what this VSN Mobile is. It's VSNMOBIL.com.
Yeah, I put a link in the show notes already, because there's an app for that in Google Hangouts. We can add links to this. So if you've got a link and you want to share it, just put it in IM on the Hangout, and I'll put it there. For some reason, you can't just put it there. That's the Matt Barron is upset handshaking. So there's this thing that came out, right? And I named this episode because Hangouts have to be named, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about, so I just guess usually. But this week there's actually something in the industry that happened. There's this mystical question, this melodious quip, magic quadrant, or madrant, if you will.
Huh. The magic quadrant came out?
Yeah, did you see it?
I didn't even know. I didn't see it.
I had no idea either.
Wait, Farah, you didn't know either?
No.
Okay, Farah's.
What about you, Hoop? Did you see it, Hooper?
No, I didn't. I haven't seen the Magic Quadrant yet, but I had been seeing Gerard Green's tweets, working on the quadrant. Yeah, Gerard, we know you're working on the quadrant.
Yeah, and then it was like anticlimactic if it was released. Crap, I had no idea.
Send me Red Bull.
I mean, Gerard always does a great job on the quadrant, and who's he working on it with this year?
It's Chris Matchett and one other person that I haven't met from Gartner. Oh, I'm sorry, whoever you are, for saying that.
And is it still the ITSM quadrant?
Yes, it is. Tapati Bandoppadhyay. I'm sorry. If you heard that and that's your name, I'm sorry. Just email me, hosts@hackbiztech. You can be a guest on too.
Yeah, you can come on the show so that we can get your name.
So does anyone have any reaction? I'll share a link to it quick and then.
Did you see the report yet?
Here's my first reaction is that when I Google it, I get front range receives positive movement, easy to position as niche player.
Oh my God.
Axios systems as visionaire, and not one of those would be the ones that I would be expecting to find as the kind of.
Okay.
So clearly not the leaders.
Front range. I mean, it was not hard to get positive movement when you're at the very bottom left corner, okay? Secondly, the only question anyone wants to know is who won. Okay, so who won?
Don't know.
Why don't we know? Oh, did we lose Barron? Barron was forced off the podcast.
You just censored by Maryville. You're an agnostic technology company, Matt. You have no idea.
Someone's running into his office and pulling the plug.
Ironically, we were talking about Wi-Fi and cabling earlier. Fiber. Oh dear. All right, so who won? But really, is there a winner? So overrated. There can't be a winner because it depends on the needs of the client and which tool satisfies most of their outcomes.
Depends, right? Because Gartner's a consulting company. It has to.
And I live in utopia.
So have you seen it, Mark? Have you actually seen the quadrant?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I know someone published previous ones in the past because they bought the rights to. Is it public yet? We should know that so we can tell people where to go get it.
Or maybe Matt's on torrent right now trying to.
It must be published because there's news. Canada Newswire put out the Axios PR that went around with it, so it's got to be out.
So maybe Axios is publishing it then.
Well, they're publishing their findings within it.
Well, yeah, I mean that people can do that all day long, but actually publishing the report, I know, BMC has done that in the past and that sort of a thing. So someone may choose to buy the rights to publish it. So we should find out if that's public yet. I don't really understand how that works, but it's an interesting idea. They're like hacking it for marketing purposes.
Well, it's an interesting arrangement. I think this is what people call into question is how does a company actually get analyzed? So let's say that I wanted to, so Gartner really doesn't have anything for me as a consulting organization, but let's say I wanted to get on the Forrester Wave for, ITSM consulting organizations. I can't just say to Forrester, hey, I should be on that because I'm better than your top 3. I have to actually become a customer, partner, enter in the program kind of thing, which does have a fee. So it does question, am I buying my way into this? You are buying your way into the entry, but you know what? I don't necessarily have a problem with it because I feel like if you're in a beauty contest, you still have a fee, you pay, you buy into the contest, and then you're judged and you're evaluated.
Well, and on top of that, there's still criteria that you have to meet.
What's the criteria and who judges it? Those are always the critical points.
Yeah. The criteria for how they're actually rating is interesting, and I know that in the last couple of years they've worked hard to come up with some sliding scales where you could say if you care about this, slide this up and it'll change the results. And so it's more of an interactive that speaks to your needs, and I think that's really valuable, but I don't know if this is still doing it that way.
Yeah, that's basically have a moment with an analyst sort of moment, personalized to your needs, that is. Yeah, I think, the fact that you guys didn't see it is actually the most interesting part of it to me. And I think, if you actually read it, they do talk about why they're included. And, it's interesting to have been a part of companies that get analyzed like this. It's really interesting to see the dynamics of what happens within the company, like who they're talking to about it and what they're actually doing to address the things that are pointed out. I think that's the most interesting part of it. But I don't know.
I would also be curious to know if Gerard really believes that the Magic Quadrant is the most valuable way that they can offer assistance in the market, or if it's just what they've been doing.
He'll say it isn't. He'll say it's people. All it is people, or just people. Because you're buying him. You're not buying his report. You're buying Gerard.
And so, all these things come back to the same thing, though. It's like, whether it's Pink Verified or on the Magic Quadrant or whatever it is, what are customers really saying? And that's a bit of the missing voice there. And I hate to say it, but that's, for me, one of the things that's very powerful with ServiceNow is you go to knowledge, and it's just like, oh my God, people love this product. So at the end of the day, I mean, you have to kind of listen to the voice of the users and the customers and how active the community is, and that's very telling.
Yeah, but once a year isn't often enough to get a weather vane on a product because it can go south pretty fast. Go to the if there's any local user groups for it. Oh.
Yeah.
And then you can see if you're going to be able to get talent in it too. The best thing that I've ever seen people do, someone at Medtronic did it. They were scoping out what it was going to be like to be a customer of the tool. Beautiful.
Yeah. That's the way to do it.
And you know what, to your point, but that's an excellent question. I've heard some of our clients when they're doing reference calls for some other ITSM tool suites. It's a great question to say, how is it, how does it feel to be a customer of the tool? Describe that experience. I think that's so important, rather than just getting caught up in the bells and the whistles.
Or a customer of the vendor of the tool.
Mm.
So, we were talking about one of those support works recently. People I was speaking to, they liked much of the product, but they didn't like working with Thornville because the feature changes and the functionality they wanted inclusive of the product they became paid consulting on top of the product and never got rolled in. Meanwhile, other products had this as out-of-the-box functionality, and they're ready to move on now. They just feel that the company's not keeping up with their own product.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there's so many inexpensive solutions that people just don't think about. Spiceworks, and aren't on the quadrant because they either don't have the market share, or they're open source, or they're not traded publicly, or they wouldn't share specific information. Use Zoho Creator, and you can build any web form workflow tool ever. And use open platforms. I don't know. We always come back to the same thing. I sound more and more like Chris every day. I can't believe this industry doesn't innovate a bit more. And once we do, it gets so bloody expensive that no one can afford to be innovative.
Well,
but then it breeds more innovation, I suppose, right?
Well,
then the cycle repeats itself.
Another interesting thing is, the way we've been talking the last few weeks and focusing more on the business strategy and enabling the business through technology, are ITSM tools really even something in our future? After a while, will they morph into something else? And so, who cares?
Or are the people who build them really matter? I'm just waiting for that vendor that gets my Magic Quadrant vote, who is able to say, you just have to talk to it and say, describe your requirements, and I'll build it for you.
Computer. The process for incident management.
And I think, I wonder how long it'll take to get there. It's always going to be fit for purpose. If technology is the core, so here's what's funny right now. So let's see if this is still true in 4 years. Right now, if you're a technology company, your IT department is basically non-existent. People provide their own, Hooper's talked about it a couple times, Box.net, integrated with some other stuff, really gets you what you need, especially in small and medium-sized companies. In 4 years, will that still be the case? Or will technology become so complex and all of the stuff needs to talk together that we need IT more,
well, we
but
talked
not...
about marketing last time, right? Let's pick on HR today. So I have Taleo for my ATS. I have Workday for all of my group policy benefits management and financials, right? I've got, SnapLogic as an integration point to feed funnel data in and out of any of those things where I don't need to code and all that stuff. Do I need IT? I don't.
And if LinkedIn didn't make your job easier as a recruiter or as someone in HR, I don't know how you're still relevant.
Yeah.
Oh, Farah had to go.
Bye, Farah. So, I think to your question, Baron, I think obviously it has to get simpler at the same time that it gets more complex. But, so, where does that end up? That ends up like some kind of just very simple business OS, where it's CRM, it's ITSM, it's ERP, it's all of it together, with just one simple, almost non-interface.
So I guess that's IT panacea, what you just described.
Right. So if that's that, what are the iterative steps to get there?
Well, it's contextual, right? It's not a singular interface. It's a contextual interface. It all depends on what I'm trying to do and when and where. And then it shows me what I need.
And it's going to have to be big picture too. Right now my systems, I can invite people to them, but I don't have to share it with them. And so there's sort of like a social leap we need to make to be more open with our data.
Yeah. There's social improvements, there's business analytics improvements, and then there's business line improvements. I mean, so we're already seeing a lot of that happening. If in the last 5 years we've moved into finance and HR pretty heavily in the ITSM tool space, we've seen business analytics really ramp up and business intelligence. We haven't seen that many collaborative or social improvements, I don't think.
Oh man, every time you mention something, I can think of some way that I would massively change it.
Yeah.
Like BI, for example, like think about how much data we have right now about what we're doing and how much of it we're actually capturing. I think it is terribly shameful how much we throw away and how little information we actually leverage. Won't that become more complex, like to the point of obfusion?
Well, it's already becoming complex, but if we're not getting wisdom from it, I mean, that's what BI is in big data, right? If you're not getting wisdom from it, then it's just data.
Data always has to stay siloed, though, because you have, at least at the personal level, a social bias that you're always going to face, right? So, you know, me letting people know what my tastes are and preferences are going to cause them to react to me in a certain way. And this isn't new. I mean, Hitler did this, right? If we go back and you want to look at a big data project, go back and look at the data that Hitler collected and analyzed. You want to talk about infographics? Go to the Holocaust Museum and walk in the back, and you're going to see an incredible infographic on where there were Jews located and how people were being repositioned and where the Jew ghettos were and all this. It's amazing, right? So this isn't new, but those kind of scenarios teach us that data privacy and protection is something that we're still always going to face because of social biases.
Oh man, I love that. And it's so hard, you know, to change yourself is one thing, but to change social bias, oh my gosh, it's just like another infinitesimally impossible feat. This is definitely going to be called the Jew Ghetto episode.
Oh my goodness, please no. In fact, let's keep talking so we don't end on that note.
And that's, no, I'm just kidding. So right now, zone 9 on my sprinkler system is going to run for another 3 minutes.
You should be watering in the morning. That's not, you're not being ecologically acceptable.
It's fresh sod and I just mowed it. You're supposed to then. But I am within the 14-day watering restriction for new sod still. So I still have 2 more days where I can water whenever I want to. Because that totally makes sense. So I got into this actually with Richard White of User Voice. I got into this on Twitter about this, how water should be priced more appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
He's living in California, but he's saying like, if we're going to allow people to waste gallons of water and millions of gallons of water, they should be paying infinitely more than the person who's conserving every gallon. You know what I'm saying? Like, and what he was saying is that water as a whole should be priced better so that people give it the respect that we need it to. And of course, it's California, and you know, this is a liberal idea, and I'm fairly liberal, so I love it.
That sounds like parking at Emory. I mean, I have to pay $700 a year to park at my own job, but if I choose not to bring a car, they pay for all the subsidies for me to take the bus.
Wow. Where did they get the funding? So, like, what business line does that come from?
I don't even know.
Coding.
But, I mean, so the money has to go somewhere. If you're paying more for water, who's pocketing that money, right?
Well, it's got to be not pocketed. I mean, if it's all owned by utilities now, don't they want to... Wouldn't they grow water treatment plants? Wouldn't they come up with better desalinators, like, or use desalinators because now it's priced appropriately?
Wasn't it also true in San Francisco you can't have bottled water?
Oh, I don't know. I've been in San Fran and had bottled water.
Plastic.
Yeah. Huh. I thought there were laws against bottles in some places, but I don't know how that works.
I don't know. I had a client once, I worked for a shoe company once, they had a giant boot made out of plastic bottles that were recovered. Kind of cool. I don't know. Makes you think about the core business when you see giant sculptures of shoes right next to you. Anyway, we have to do some analysis on some of my culture hack tweets. A lot of culture hacking going on Twitter. If you follow me, if you don't, there's no culture hacking going on. There's a couple links in the showcase. We'll include them in the show notes. Thanks again for joining us on Hacking Business Technology. Have a good week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.